Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I have from a place very close to my heart, Vancouver, Canada, the amazing Anthony C. Taylor. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, one of my favorite places, I said, and it is very close to my heart from my days when I lived in Whistler, which is obviously not Vancouver, but I spent a fair bit of time in Vancouver as well. But Anthony, you're the CEO and managing partner of SME Strategy Consulting, and you've had the company for 15 years. So that's not, that's nice. That's amazing that, it's stood the test of time. And it's the business is essentially facilitating strategic planning that aligns senior teams around a clear destination and execution cadence. You also host a strategy and leadership podcast, and you've led sessions for organizations across North America and beyond. When you booked in for the podcast, I asked a question around what's one unique insight or lived experience in life leadership and your business. And this really, I'm getting so many amazing answers, but this one in particular really intrigued, fascinated me because you just simply said in one sentence, and I shouldn't laugh, but how getting ripped off for 100K led me to help people with strategy. And I was like, well, there's a story in that he's keen to obviously share. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about the response to my question. Yeah, off you go.
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily keen. I am keen to share it, but it's not something I often talk about. But it is like the origin story. And if anybody listening, origin stories, you either turn into a supervillain or a superhero. It remains to
100%.
be seen which is which for me. But basically, the moral of the story was I had invested with a business partner in an ESL school in Vancouver in 2007, which wasn't a great economic time. And my business partner ended up ripping me off. At the time, I was running that business. I had some other businesses. And then I took my path to help organizations see around the corner and incorporate risk into their long term planning to mitigate risk so bad stuff that happened to me doesn't happen to them. So I was writing business plans, I was writing marketing plans, and then said, hey, real key thing here is strategic planning and helping organizations really just avoid what if they took the time, could see around the corner, proverbially.
Yeah, to mitigate it. I mean, there's always risks, right? There's always risks in whatever you do. It's like, how do you mitigate? How do you calculate? How do you pivot so that you, like you say, you're not just blind to being potentially ripped off, because quite often, and I'd love your thoughts on this, when we're in business, we have the blinkers on, we're so focused, or we've got so many different things going on, we quite often forget to look up. And then all of a sudden, everything hits the fan, and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? Where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, don't you think?
Yes, in this case, I think it's just the experience and expertise that as a facilitator, somebody who's come in and they're saying, hey, we want to align our team. We want to move everybody around. I haven't necessarily, like, I can't say I've been the CEO of a $100 million, $200 million company, but I facilitated several hundred strategic planning sessions. I've worked with certain organizations for decades or a decade plus. And so being able to say, like, I've seen this before, and here's why you might want to consider that, or you're probably going to get in trouble with this, or this thing is going to get in the way. Why don't we anticipate that thing proactively? That you're probably going to get busy with operations and get ahead of the curve of let's not let the day to day get in the way of the strategic by doing XYZ.
Yeah, very cool. So how do you do it? Talk us through, because like, when you say strategy planning, strategy can, there's business strategy, there's brand strategy, like there's, mitigating strategies. What sort of strategy, like what do you do when you go into a company, and what do you look at it in the first instance?
Yeah, so this is like we'll call it strategy at the highest order, highest level. It's when executives of leadership teams are doing their strategic planning offsite or away day. I don't know what it's called in Australia.
Yeah, wait, Dave. Yeah.
Away day, and so we lead these away days for folks. We walk them through our aligned strategy development process, which is 2 to 3 days in person. We also do it virtually, and we walk them through a 5-step process that looks at where are we now, including celebrating how we got to here, doing a SWOT and a pestle analysis, Some people don't know what a pestle analysis. Happy to fill in the blanks
Yeah,
later.
I was about to say, what is a pestle analysis? And
Uh,
thank you for offering that up because I'm like, I don't think I've heard of this before. So yeah, tell
and
us what
many
it is.
executives haven't. So I'll say so. PESTEL analysis. PESTEL stands for political, economic, social, legal, environmental, technological. I
Yeah,
misordered one, and it's about looking at the trends in advance
yeah,
to
right.
try to predict where the world is going to be, so that we don't build our plan for how the world was. We're building our plan for how
Yeah.
we think the world is going to be.
And did you create the pestle analysis, or is that something that's it's yeah, I've never heard of it.
Other people call it like steep or steeple.
Yeah,
In addition to our strategic planning, we do scenario planning, which is using that methodology to
yeah.
expand into strategic plans. We could be here for a very long time, so happy to answer as much, but why don't I go through the methodology and then we'll work our way
100%.
back?
No, I've got other questions for you. So let's keep going.
I don't doubt it. I'll come back. Okay, so current state, celebrate, SWAT, pestle, future state, vision, and not just a vision statement. We call it one destination. If we have to all be going to the same place, if we're
Yes,
not all
cool.
going to the same place, we're going to different places. And then mission or purpose. You
Yeah.
know, who are we? What do we do? Who do we do it for within X time frame? Typically 3 years, not 5 years, in some cases 10 years. I'll talk more about that. So current state, future state, risks. There it is again. So doing values and behaviors, because that's one of the biggest roadblocks to strategy execution, as well as a full-on risk register. It takes about 2 hours. It's cumbersome and complete. Then where do we want to go? High level priorities. Don't half ass two things, whole ass one thing. So focus on a couple things, do them really well instead of a lot of things poorly. Break that down into goals and objectives, qualitative and quantitative. Break those down into actions and tactics, and then say, hey, how are we going to stay on top of our plan? So we talk about execution. It's 2 days of planning, 1,100 days of execution, and then what we call our 6 critical capacities for strategy execution, which are the skills and capacities for your team to actually get the plan across the line, not just a document, but actually getting to that
Yeah,
place
really
in
interesting.
1,096 days.
Can I ask how I'm a big believer in a plan on a page, and when I work with my clients, I provide a plan on a page, and I have the pillars that sit underneath, like the purpose, the mission, the values in action, the goals, and then there's the various pillars, which is people, customer, brand, product, growth, and ops. And then from that, the like you say, the cadence falls out of it. I quite often see a lot of business plans where it's like the biggest document I've seen, and I'm just like, it's not even being looked at, the business strategy. What's your view? What's your firm view on like a simple strategy in terms of one that is tangible enough that they can see it? Like it's almost in the back of their pocket. It's not, but it's up on their wall. Like, do you have something that they're able to then just have like a snapshot of, or is it like because it's by the sounds of things, it's very detailed and robust, which is brilliant. But then how do you ensure that they do always go back to their business plan, their business strategy?
They just have to go back to it. That's it. I mean, yes, one page, vision, mission, values, strategic priorities on a page, but sometimes you just need more.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to review the SWOT or pestle every month. Maybe you do that every year. You're not going to review, but you have to go through a process
Yes.
that creates a good result. It's like a distilled, if you drink, I don't drink no more. But like you need something to be distilled. And when you distill it, it's clearer and better. So our process leads that outcome. It's why you can't create a strategic plan with AI, because it might give you the content. It's probably still bad, but that's an actual process that leads to it. But yes, it needs to be simple. It needs to be clear. It needs to be executable. The challenge is sometimes people try to make things brief, like a vision statement that sounds good, but doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
So
That's a
I
good
would
point.
take a clear and understandable vision versus something that says, we are going to be the best number one at this in this thing. It's like, well, that doesn't actually tell me anything. We want to grow. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
So
No, I'm staring at mine right now, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit of a detail hound as well. So, and it's that cadence, right? And like you say, you just have to stick to it. What are you seeing as like the biggest I guess challenges. You referenced 2007 was, not a fun time when it came to economically GFC, obviously 2008, we're in an interesting time at the moment. I'm hearing about, like, I don't know about what's going on in Canada as such, but it's a tough economic time to be in business right now from, SMEs, like even the big corporates, the layoffs, etc. with, things like AI, and that's one factor. What are you seeing as the biggest challenges SMEs are facing at the moment when it comes to the headwaves that are coming through, like in general, like from a political, economic, like there's just a lot. The world is in a very interesting time, right? We're in a revolution. It does for me feel like not the GFC. It feels different, but it feels it. There's just similarities, but they're different. If that makes sense.
100%. As the pure, like we're technically facilitators, not consultants, but the consultant answer is it depends because
Yeah,
it's different for
yeah,
everybody. You could be in manufacturing in the United States and you could be getting ready for a bunch of tax breaks. You could be in manufacturing in Europe and your number one customer just put 1,000% tariffs on you arbitrarily for arguably no reason, but we're not going to go there. So there's a lot of different, it's uncertain, it's volatile, and business doesn't like volatility. They like predictability. And the largest economy in the world basically decided to rewrite the rules for pretty much everybody more or less overnight. And in some cases, between Canada and the US, economic relations that have been pretty reasonable and stable for the past 70 years. And so, in addition to AI, like AI in itself is a big ass disruptor, technical term. And then other folks are dealing with a bunch of different things. So there are opportunities. I think the hangover is starting to clear. But I do think from September 2024 to more or less October 2024, people were reeling from uncertainty. People don't like to make decisions under uncertainty. Now there's certainty in the fact that there's uncertainty, and I think that's helping people at least get back on the horse.
yeah. It's a good response, and I like that, and I thank you. I appreciate it because the world is uncertain and it's not going away. And so the more we can get comfortable being uncomfortable, and like exactly what you're doing with your business in terms of just that. There's some things that you can control, but there's a lot you can't. So control what you can control the controllables, as you know. Talk about facilitation because I love a good facilitation. I mean, I do facilitation workshops myself. And I'm a true believer that they need to be dynamic, they need to be, like interactive. What's your view on what does good look like when it comes to you, when it comes to a facilitation? What does it look like?
I think the key to a facilitation, as you might have gathered from how I talk, is monotone, consistent, slow, and predictable. Everybody wants to be in a meeting in a room for 2 days with somebody that talks like this. It really makes it enjoy. Okay, I'm going to stop right now. No, the key thing is that it is enjoyable. It is a process. If you're going to invest the time, if you're going to invest the energy, you might as well have a good time. And that's actually what I tell people. I say today, whatever day it is, often, is today is the only today I'm ever going to have. And so I'm going to choose to enjoy it. And so we can still do hard work. We can still disagree. We can still have conflict in an effective way because we're talking about important things. It's with an executive team of people, but often they have hundreds of employees or they might have, thousands of stakeholders. They say, I'm not here for you as an executive team. I'm here for the impact that we are going to have as a group. And that is the context from which I say, hey, don't do it for us. Do it for our 500 employees. And that elevates it. It makes it easier for people to have conflict because there is more at stake. And so
Yeah.
by having a high at stakeness, it allows people to have tough, valuable, emotional, potentially vulnerable conversations, but about something as exciting as a pestle analysis, a SWOT that many people would rather have a nail in their head than talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. But I think that there's a way to do it in a way that's engaging, fun, valuable, and makes them better executives in the process, not just checking a box.
Yeah. I've got this idea. I'd love to, I mean, like share it in terms of like, I always think about workshops and even when I've had when I've been in them myself and, quite often 2 days, 3 days, 4 day workshops, when you're in the zone in a workshop, you come away and you feel like charged, you're excited, and then all of a sudden you get back into your day to day, and then you
Mm.
almost it's slowly but surely things start to just, and you've got your 1100-day plan. I've always, like thought and been testing out like putting the more, depending on the audience or the people that are in the workshop, like the morning, setting the morning up with all the more strategic, if you like, more intense, deep work, focus work that's required. Because and then the afternoon, you obviously you go away, you have your lunch break, whatever. But the afternoon is more than resetting it and I guess talking through what's happened in the morning because I just think quite often and because there is so much information overload and complexity in the world and distractions, it's trying to keep people focused for a set long period of time. It's quite impossible at the moment because everyone has just got 150 million things on the go. You might disagree with me on that, but yeah, I just think there's ways to reshape facilitation and workshops to better accommodate for what actually is happening to all of us, right? Like, I don't know about you, but some days I'm just like, my brain cannot take on any more load?
Mhm. Yes, I hear that and I understand. And we probably do the opposite. We probably ask the hardest questions when people are energetically at their lowest. Not on purpose. It's just they have 2 days and that's the process and that's the time to do the thing. And if they can get through that, it's, hey, there's no limit to what I think the
Yeah, okay.
groups are capable of. However, right, some things just take time. So typically at the end of day one, we're likely having a conversation around mission and purpose, and we're undoubtedly asking people a really frustrating and annoying question, which is, if you had to focus 70% of your time, money, energy on one core customer, who would it be? And they don't like that because they want to do everything for everybody. And I say, you can't. In this case, in this unique, specific, made up case that has no bearing, but just hypothetically speaking, if you couldn't pick up two phone calls at once, if you couldn't be two places at once, where would you be? And
Okay.
it's an interesting thought exercise because people want to do everything for everybody. And we put in an artificial barrier that restricts their ability to do two things. And it allows them to focus, to prioritize, which is what the heart of strategic planning actually is. It's about choices, both what to do, but what not to do.
But
And so
yeah,
that is the hard question.
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. You've been in business 15 years, entrepreneur, you've had other companies, you've had some, like you've had some bad experiences. What what keeps you going? What keeps you, I guess, yeah, what keeps you energized? What keeps you motivated? I'm sure, you've had your ups and downs, when it comes to being a business owner, like everybody that I speak to does and has. There's obviously a lot of highs, a lot of lows, there's the in-betweens. Yeah, what keeps you going?
You do.
I
Because out of today, our conversation, yeah, because out of today, you got something out of it. And hopefully, out of this 15, 20-minute interaction, I've been able to change the trajectory of your life one way or the other, probably positively. And so that's really it is for me, and it might sound cheesy, but I genuinely believe it is like my impact on the world is by doing strategic planning. Because if an organization is run better, that means that employees have more direction, which means that they are probably happier, more fulfilled, which means they come home, they're not angry at their families, they're happy, engaged, which means they're going to have impact in their communities. So I can change the world through strategic planning. So that's why it sucks being away from my wife and my kids, but really that's like the purpose. That's how I can have impact on the world by supporting these organizations through something as inane as a strategic plan, and that's
Oh, it's
what
not
does it
inane.
for
I don't
me.
think you could ever say it's inane. I am a massive strategic planning. I'm
Well,
a
you're a
big,
nerd.
yeah,
So am I.
yeah.
Not everybody would see the same way, and so that is kind of why, that's why it's purpose. It's not just doing it. Have you ever heard the story of the Italian bricklayer? It's one of my favorite stories. You ever heard it?
No, no, I want to hear
So
it. But by
Perfectly,
the
yeah.
way, firstly, that was very kind of you to say that I do because I just was like, I was a bit taken back. I was like, oh, that's really sweet. That's really nice. But I love that. I think I saw it on your website or your LinkedIn profile that, that's what makes you, that's what gets you up every day. So it's beautiful. But anyway, sorry, tell us the story.
No, please. I mean, it has, Friday afternoon on Halloween. This is when this is recorded.
Oh,
Hopefully, I
yes, I
don't blow up your
forgot. You've
publishing
got
schedule. But yeah,
Halloween.
and this is what we're spending our time doing. But I
Yeah.
don't know anybody I mean, I know lots of people in Australia, and know lots of people all over the world. There's people I will never meet that hopefully out of today they will have an impact. They will bring this. It will make a difference, and I really mean it. So, um, okay. So there's a story, and there's the Italian bricklayers, and there's this little girl walking around in Italy, and she sees these guys. And pardon me if anybody knows the story somewhere else, I might butcher it, but here we are. And she sees these guys laying bricks, built, and she says, "Hey, signore, what are you doing?" Goes to the first one and says, "Hey, I'm building like, what does it look like? I'm stacking bricks. I'm very busy. Leave me alone." She goes, "Okay." Goes to the second one and says, "Signore, what are you doing?" And it's just like, "Little girl, look at all this work I have to do. Like, I've got tons of bricks to lay. Like, go away." Okay. And she goes to the third one and says, "Signore, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, little girl, isn't it obvious? I'm building a cathedral." And so the context from which you show up to an activity, are you stacking bricks or are you building a cathedral, determines how impactful or important a thing you do is.
So true. Yeah, it's such a great story. It's profound, actually. It's yeah. When you think about bricks and cathedral, it's a very big difference. So, well, I've got a couple of last questions for you. Time and time again, I'll go into a business and I'll be like, "Where's your, take me through your strategy?" And quite often there isn't one. And yeah, that's where, where the rubber hits the road in terms of, well, you can understand why there's a growth, the growth is stunted. They're not scaling. There's disengagement with the team, all of that. What do you say? Like, I guess my question is, I'm trying to work it out. I haven't had a coffee yet, so excuse me, but and it is Saturday morning, so forgive me. But what would be the first question you would ask when you're approached by a company and knowing full well they're coming to you for facilitation of strategy planning? But what's the first question you ask?
What is the first question I ask when
A com
someone comes to
Yeah.
me for strategic planning? Well, if it was like a sales call, I would say, "Well, you tell me about your business for 15 minutes, and then I'll tell you about our thing for 15 minutes. And if it's a fit, I'll tell you how to do things." But instead of that answer, I'll give you a better answer, which is more of an anecdote because I teach in anecdotes. And so, would you like another anecdote?
Yeah, I'd love a good anecdote. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So, there's a story in Alice in Wonderland, the book or the movie,
Yes,
depending
yes,
how
yes,
old you are.
yes.
And she gets to a fork in the road. Do you know this one?
Yes. But keep telling
Excellent.
us because I'm sure a lot of
Okay.
people haven't heard it.
So she gets to a fork in the road and she's like, "Oh, which road should I take?" And she asks this magical cat, says, "Hey, which one of these roads should I take?" The Cheshire cat, magical footing cat. And he says, "Well, then where do you want to go?" And she says, "I don't know." And then he says, "Well, then any road will get you there." And people get so focused on the roads that they want to take, they forget about the destination. That's why, original question around brand strategy, marketing strategy, positioning strategy, da 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 strategy is, well, those are just roads. And the joke that I make in a session is, let's say, hypothetically, you fed me chocolate every day. Without fail, you fed me chocolate every day, and you keep feeding me chocolate, and all of your dreams would come true. Would you invest in a marketing plan? Would you invest in branding? Or would you invest in chocolate? And they say, we would invest in chocolate. And that's why I say the action plan has no bearing. Like, it does, but it's only a function of where you're trying to get to. So if you don't know where you're going to get to, no other thing is going to help you there. And so the question that all strategic planning really asks or gets to the bottom of is, what does success look like?
Yes.
And if we don't know, or if we don't agree on what success looks like, we're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Or if everybody has a different version of success, everybody's moving in different directions. And we call that the multiple destination trap.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, too true. Too true. And what does getting into flow state look like for you? Like in terms of act like, what gets you in the zone. So you
Yes.
seem
A
like
pot of coffee. Yeah.
A pot of coffee?
Okay, let's see. I have many flow states. So I really do back in the day as a marketer, as somebody who built like websites and just did a bit of everything. I like not being interrupted with phone calls, just getting to like my buddy jokes. It's like pick something up, put it down. Pick something up, put it down. I'm very happy picking stuff up and putting it down, and just rearranging and building that way. But I'm also, working with teams, leading them through a strategic planning process. I mean, it's cheesy. I burn 4,000 calories a day of facilitation. My heart rate is at 90 for 8 hours. If anybody's a doctor on the podcast, you may say that's unhealthy and I should watch my weight. But the point of that is I love working with people. I love doing this work. I love interviewing and being interviewed, which is rarer. But just getting to just jam. I love it. I would do this
Yeah.
for the rest of my life till I'm old and gray, and I'm halfway there. Actually, I'm almost both way there for both of those things.
I'd love to be in one of your facilitations. I can just imagine you in a room right now, like just doing it. Last question, it's not even a question. What would be one piece of advice you would give an SME? Oh, no, they're not even an SME yet. They've got an idea. They're about to start a company. They're starting out and they've got the idea, but they don't know what to do next. What would be one piece of advice you would give them?
What piece of advice would I give to a business owner who would
They've got
who's
an
going to
idea.
start a business? Yeah,
They haven't actually officially put the business together, if that makes sense. But they've got an
sure
idea
does.
and
Yeah,
they're transitioning from, say, a corporate role into becoming a business owner.
hmm,
They're ready to go. Well, they think they are.
yeah, I got it. Don't
What?
do it. Don't do it. But here's why it's not going to make a difference. Because if you are truly an entrepreneur, you're not going to listen. It doesn't matter what anybody said. If you are really passionate, but so my answer is don't do it because statistically, it's a dumb idea. It's a bad idea to do whatever business idea you're thinking about. There's a million reasons to not do it. So it's not advice. It's don't do it. Statistically, it's a bad idea. But if you're really an entrepreneur, you're not going to listen. It doesn't matter what anybody else says because you're going to do it for other reasons other than being right. It could be to prove everybody else that you are right and they are wrong, or you're doing it to provide your family freedom, or you're doing it to have impact. And all of those why reasons, if they're big enough, will overcome any statistical reason for not doing it. The only difference between entrepreneurs that make it and don't is that they just didn't quit. That's it.
I love it. I
And
actually
so
thought
that is the advice.
you were going to say just don't do it. I was like, whoa, that's a really crazy response. Okay, okay, thanks, Anthony. Anthony, I've really enjoyed my Saturday morning chat with you. Are you trick-or-treating? Are you heading off trick-or-treating with the kids?
We are. My eldest has no interest in wearing his costume. He is traumatized about fireworks, and my wife is going to get some delivered and try to heal him, for lack of a better word. And it is game 6 of the Blue Jays Major League Baseball today. And so I am going as a broadcast tower so I can listen to the game and hopefully
Oh,
allow
how
people
fun.
around me to listen as
Yeah,
well.
how fun. Everyone was out and about last night, but like I said, my little Marley Bob's had his little course, so we couldn't go out and watch everyone, but I did see everyone. But how do we find out more about you, Anthony? How do we find out more about SME Strategy Consulting?
If you basically Google anything strategic planning, we will likely come up first, likely, perhaps. If you Google Anthony C. Taylor, I will likely come up. SME Strategy. Follow me on the internet. Happy to connect. If there's ever an opportunity to come to your neck of the woods to do a talk to your folks or community or your company, more than happy to do that. But no, for anybody on the
Vice
call, I appreciate
versa.
you listening. Yeah, I'm at your service. Just don't be a stranger, and just thanks for listening, and thanks B for doing what you do. It truly has been a pleasure and a privilege, and I do look forward to connecting again.
Yeah, no, thank you, Anthony. I've really enjoyed it as well. And I really let you get off to your Halloween trick-or-treating. There you go. We finished right on time as requested. So
Do you
I'm
want
like,
one more? Do you want one more story before we go?
yeah, if you want to share one more
It's a
story, yeah, no
dog
worries.
anecdote related to change.
Yes, yes, an anecdote related to change would be incredible because Bee Formless is all about reshaping life, leadership, and business. So absolutely share away.
Perfect. Do you say business, like as in bee? Because if so,
Bee,
or that's just the accent. Never mind. Okay,
that's
had
the
to be there.
accent.
Okay, so what I tell people and I don't know where this story came from. There's a lot of stuff that comes in my brain. So, and this is about change and or not changing. And so this is a story of an old man and his dog, and it made me think of your dog, and that's why I'm bringing it up. And this old man and his dog, and they're sitting on a porch, and there's a guy walking by, and he hears the dog, and the dog is kind of making like a howling noise, not like a loud howling noise, but kind of a whimpery, like like a sad whimper. And the guy walking by asks the old man, he's on this rocking chair, and he says, "Hey, why is your dog making that noise? He sounds like he's really in a lot of discomfort." And he's like, "Yep. Well, where the dog is laying, there's a nail sticking out of the floorboard. You follow, B? Sounds uncomfortable, right? Yeah." And he says,
Yeah, I'm
"Okay,
just
I got it. Well, how come he doesn't get up?" And he's like, "Well, it doesn't hurt that bad." And so folks will not change unless it hurts bad enough. So what I say is the benefit of the future needs to be greater than the pain of change. Because changing, starting a new business is hard. Staying in your job that you hate is hard. Choose. And so if it doesn't hurt bad enough, you're not going to change. If I say eat a bunch of chocolate and you're going to get a tummy ache, you'll probably keep eating chocolate. If I say you eat a bunch of chocolate and you're going to die, you'll probably stop eating chocolate.
yeah, it's
So
so true.
anything in life as an individual or as a leader is saying, hey, how do I get the bigger thing to be bigger than whatever it's going to take to get there?
Yeah, and then sometimes you're just forced when the universe just jumps on in and takes over and says you're not listening. And off and that, like, but yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's all around how do you tap into that grit? How do you tap into that anti-fragility? It's not just about bouncing back, it's about how do you bounce forward because change is uncomfortable, but the future is the possibilities are endless, and that's what excites me so much. And then talking to people like yourself, like we're here to make impact. Like, do you want to make impact, or do you want to just be, you know?
Only if that's what you really want to do. Because you don't have anything. You could just be. And there's something about being that is great. But if there's something big enough that calls you, to your point, you have to be in tune to what it is, or put in a position where there's no other option. And in some cases, you have no other option, and that's also a good place to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're right, there is nothing wrong with just being as well. So it's really horses for courses, isn't it? Anthony, enjoy trick-or-treating, and I'd love to be overseas and see what goes on. I know it's a big thing and it's getting bigger and bigger in Australia actually over the last however many years. But yeah, I hope your son is okay with the firecrackers. And yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful Halloween.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on today.
No, you're welcome. Take care.